Welcome back. This is our follow-up video on the MJX 10208 110 monster truck. This is the version 1 that we used in the last video, and today we're going to compare it to the version 2, which came out last week in Australia. This is the version 2, so it looks almost the same, but it's got a few subtle differences. Most of them are inside. I'll go through them for you right now. The biggest one they've done is they've made the car wider to make it more stable, so they've lengthened the turnbuckles. They've put on thicker, stronger turnbuckle ends. The arms are longer and thicker, so they're not as flexible. Chassis wise, they've put more reinforcing around the back, which you can't see. Also, they've made the motor mount way longer and stronger. So now the motor mount's held in by 5 screws, not just 2. Underneath, you've got a different rear brace skid plate. So it's all cast alloy versus the previous one, which was plastic with an add-on skid plate. It also sounds a lot quieter. The first version had a bit of a noise issue. So to demonstrate the noise difference or the sound difference, we're gonna just roll this one slightly forwards. See, there's no locking up, there's no resistance, it just rolls up. And then this is the version 1, which had the slightly noisier gearing. It doesn't want to roll and sounds more like a tractor. Definitely hear that friction between the gears, whereas the new one just keeps on rolling. Sounds a lot healthier. Now, next thing they changed was the shocks. So the first one we got, the shocks were quite soft. They've also changed the shock towers. They've made them wider and lower to give it a little bit more clearance. This is standard out of the box. There's nothing been adjusted or tweaked. A little bit bouncy in the back, but definitely enough dampening for normal driving. On the ESC side, looks like they've changed the cover for the fan. So this one here has a bit of a pattern on there, whereas the old one just had a kind of grille. So they've made it a little bit more appealing. Both the ESCs are 100 amp, so I'm not sure if they've changed any specs, but the only difference that we can see is the cover. Okay, looking at the back of the car, the bumper almost looks the same, but if you look up closely, what they've done is because they've changed the rear skid plate or incorporated the cast alloy rear block, they've had to separate the bumper from the skid plate, whereas previously they had the bumper acting as part of the skid plate. Another difference we found that the battery straps on the previous ones were quite short. This is the original one. It's about 23 centimeters long. Now they're thinner, skinnier, but they're a lot longer. They're up to 26 now, which means that it will obviously wrap around better for those bigger battery packs. Hopefully it's also got more of an overlap to grip better. It does. So we had a lot of trouble with the original ones. We had to rotate the whole strap to a certain point to get the hook and loop overlap. This should be resolved in this model. Okay, now the turnbuckles, just a bit of a close-up here. This is a version 1. So it had black turnbuckles on top for your camber links and silver on the bottom for your toe links. Now they've gone silver all around, and because they've lengthened them, so I think that's a very good positive change. On the back, they've gone from, exactly the same. They've gone from like a very narrow center section for adjusting into a very, very wide, broad section if you need to make any adjustments. So together with the longer turnbuckles, they've obviously gone with longer drive shafts as well. We can't see much differences in the drive shaft thickness or composition or shape or design, so they look like the same, but longer. Next, the arms, they're still very flexible. You can definitely get them to twist just with your fingers, but the extra length is definitely noticeable. Tire wise, now you saw that we had a bit of a blowout on our first test last week. These tires look exactly the same. So I'm expecting to have the same issue if we ever run 4S again. I mean, it's very hard to test tires, but if you do the old squish and pull test, I can't tell much difference between them. They're both pre-glued pretty well, nothing's coming off. Their foam feels soft. They're a bit of a medium, I would say, grade rubber. Now guys, the packaging from a distance looks exactly the same. So there's a white car on one side and a black car on the other. So don't get confused if you're buying one. They're grabbing it by the way the box is sitting. You got to look at the side of the box, and it has a color marked on one of the colored vehicles on the side. So this one on my left is the white one, which is a new car, the version 2, and this is the black one from the last review. So the graphics on both boxes are exactly the same. The only difference we found was the size. So obviously the new car is wider by the 20 millimeters or so, about an inch. So you can compare the size side by side. This is the old box, the smaller one, the version 1. This is version 2. Definitely a difference in the physical dimensions of the box. The part number on both boxes is exactly the same, so it's 10208. I'm assuming the 10 is a 10 scale and 208 is model 208, but both of them have the same graphics and the same designs and boxes. The difference are the size. So bigger car, bigger box. If you're shopping in store for one of these cars and you're not sure what version they're stocking, go in there with a tape measure and measure it. So the old one is about 33 centimeters, top to bottom, 33. And the new one is 34, all right? So I hope all of you can see that, and make sure you get one of the little tape measures and walk in there prepared, all right? So 34 for the new one, 33 for the old one. In a lot of the reviews, I mentioned that the chassis is stiffer. Some of them say that the old one's made from rubber.
It's rubber.
I don't think this is rubber. I think this is more like a softer nylon, and this one might be more of a composite plastic. So stiffer material to stop that flex. I remember when we removed brace off the first one, for example, the tub is very flexible. The car would not work if you just removed that center brace. So stiffer material there. Obviously the bigger bearings that support the diff is a huge improvement. Whenever there's a bearing in the center line of any car, that part of the car spins really fast, and if the bearing isn't the right size or right strength, that requires a lot of maintenance and checking over. So if that bearing isn't the right size, it's going to cause a lot of issues, especially if it's driven in dust or moisture. The shock towers are different. On the old one there was washers next to before the screw heads. They've eliminated that washer design. I'm guessing because they've got the more durable turnbuckle ends. We're yet to test that if it is going to be an issue or not. Bumpers, they feel the same. I think this is generally a slightly better car. It's a bit annoying that the box wasn't marked differently. It didn't have a V2 on there to make it easier for the new customers to know what they're buying. Like we mentioned before, the measurement is different. The car is wider, so unless you take a tape measure to the shop, you're not going to know if the shop's new. They're not going to understand the difference. Same price here in Australia. They're about $429 Australian, which equates to about 300 USD. Better, stronger, same speed, good beginner car. They're a bit of a brick, so if you're going to run it on a bigger, higher cell count battery, they could be a bit dangerous. But for anyone that's looking for something that's durable, easy to drive, and it will stay together, it's a great model right now for this year. For everyone that's already got the V1 and thinks that they're missing out because they haven't got the V2 specs, there's not that many differences that are going to affect your overall performance and enjoyment of the hobby. Things like the bigger bearing on the main center diff, that's kind of critical, but you can obviously just replace your standard bearing more frequently. Their width, again, it adds in a bit of stability at going at high speeds. Not critical. For a car of in this price point, it's still an amazing car. Would I buy the conversion kit, the upgrade kit? Probably not. If I was having constant issues with any part of the car, I would consider it. The stiffer chassis, we had no issues with the chassis being too flexible or causing any driving downsides. So I think the upgrade kit you would consider down the track if you needed a new diff or drive shafts. But overall, both cars are good. This one's the evolution of this one, which is great to see, like for a company to make improvements on a car mainly from people's feedback and acting on it so quickly. It's pretty amazing to have those battery straps lengthen in a model that's only a few months old is amazing. Normally companies take years to change things over. Did they have to change the box? Not really. The box does obviously reflect what's inside. The car body shell is the same, but I'd be happy with the old one. The new one, obviously, with updates is even better. So if anyone else is looking for one, definitely consider it. Pricing around the world is very mixed, I hear. In Australia, they've always been $429, which is great. The battery to suit is $80, charger from $65 to $80. So very good beginner car. There's nothing sort of that's comparable in the market. Good entry level. If you're looking for a better price, maybe look, see if shops have the old V1 and ask for a discount, but currently they're all $429 in Australia. Old or new, I'll be looking at the new one for sure. If you're getting an old one, try and get a bit of a saving or a free battery.
Discounts. Discounts.
Right, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for liking the last video and commenting. We rely on those comments to obviously come up with new content, and I hope you like all the new reels and this edit. Thank you very much, and see you next time.